over there is I'm glad to be here this week. I was summoned for jury duty this week. So, well, you act surprised.
You have to do. I don't have. When I turn 70, I don't have to do jury duty.
I'm not 70 yet.
Oh, that's right.
I'm a young 69. But I did feel like I was like the oldest one in the room, which is. But I got all my jury duty out of the way yesterday. So Gary was on call. He was ready to do Bible study today. If they called me in this morning, you've all done jury duty, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just something when you get that letter in the mail that says jury duty. You know, it's just stamped across, and it's kind of funny because apparently my civic duty now involves sitting in a room full of strangers who all look just as thrilled as I do. And you know, and here's the thing about it is, I can barely decide what to have for lunch, and now I'm in a room and they're showing me a video that says you are to determine someone's fate. You know, whether or not they will go to jail for a decade or not. And I'm going, you know, they really picked the wrong guy for this. My goodness, jury duty. It's a great American tradition, part of our civic responsibility. Where you're summoned to take part of the democratic process, whether you like it or not. But every time I do something, I always like takeaways, because you never know when it's going to make it into a sermon, right, Gary? I'm always looking for stuff to go into a sermon. And here's my takeaway from my day of jury duty yesterday. Jury duty is the realization that you know absolutely nothing about the legal system. That was my takeaway yesterday. I thought, well, I've watched NCIS. You know, objection, Your Honor. You know, I watch Matlock, both of them. No, it does not prepare you. They're using words that I'm going, I should be writing this stuff down, but it's not gonna be any good. So, but. Anyway, so I got that done yesterday. Nobody got the chair, so it all worked out good. But I'm very appreciative for Gary to be ready for to help us out with that. And we didn't no hurricane this week, so thank goodness for Sarah. You know what? I'm hoping next year though, in the hurricane names, I really want a Hurricane Karen. I don't know why, but I just, for some reason, I'm hoping that that Karen gets put. Can you imagine a Hurricane Karen shows up when you don't want them, and just a lot of hot air, and everything they touch gets destroyed. That's a hurricane that I can get around. That's a hurricane that can strike fear in my heart. Hurricane Karen, but there's no Hurricane Sarah, so we're very grateful for that, even though I think we should be going back and doing a Bible study again on Gog and Magog and the Russian war that's going to take place in the Middle East. Folks, you're watching Bible prophecy. You're watching Bible prophecy come to life every morning. I was looking at the list of NATO countries. I was listening this morning to the news, and they were talking about the list of NATO countries now that's involved with the strike missiles and everything, and it lines up with Ezekiel. It's the craziest thing. It's Iran and Turkey, and you know, on Afghanistan on this side and everything, and on the other side you got, it's with Israel, and it's just, folks, you're watching biblical prophecy come to life. I'm actually thinking about, we do a lot of stuff on biblical prophecy, but there's one part of biblical prophecy that I've never done before, and I get a lot of questions on it, and I thought we might do a one-night Bible study on it. And that is that we're going to come back to this earth and live on this earth for 1,000 years. And we never talk about that part. And I actually like that part, because I walk outside at night and I go, you know what, if I die tomorrow, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to come back to this earth. And I'm going to live back on this earth for 1,000 years. Some of you, this might be the first time you've heard about it. So what do y'all think about it? Just maybe a one-week Bible study on that. That's something I like to just talk about what's going to happen, because we talk about Gog and Magog and the rapture and the tribulation, but there's some really cool stuff that's going to happen after that. And if you're a believer, we're all going to be a part of it. Okay, so did anyone attempt to put together their Legos this week? Raise your hand if you got your Lego put together. Okay, that is very sad. But you know what? It's all right. It works. It works. Because some of you complete it. Well, was it easy to complete it?
No.
Those little pieces?
Oh.
Did you feel like giving up?
Yeah.
How many of you got more than one set because you threw one of them in the trash can? Okay, there you go. There's an honest person. I love that. That's right. And how many of you started yours and you never completed it? Okay, very good. Guess what? You're all in the book of Haggai. This is what we're talking about in the book of Haggai. See how well this worked? The whole Lego thing just worked so well with the book of Haggai. And you know what? And Rick Warren's never thought about this one. This is the book I'm going to write. This is going to be book. Haggai and Legos. But okay. So what we're going to be talking about today, because we're talking about them building the temple. Did anybody get a little discouraged in working on their Legos? Did you feel like kind of like an idiot? Or like, man, I cannot believe I can't see these. I got to get a magnifying glass or whatever.
I did.
You did get a magnifying glass, yeah. Ask me where my turtle is. It's still sitting on top of the dresser. I put it on the top of the dresser so it can shame me every day when I walk past it. That's right. I have to do the turtle walk of shame. So I walk past the turtle. But I got one more week to get my turtle done, so I'm encouraged. But today we're going to talk about the opposite of it, because all these people, as they're trying to build the house of the Lord, and we talked about this last week, they're going to get discouraged. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is discouragement. So tell you what, let's open up in prayer and then welcome everybody that's online. Thank you, Beth, for doing our live streaming today. And then we'll get started. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. This time last week, we had no idea what we were going to be expecting, and that's the way life is. Life is full of unexpected challenges, surprises, good days, bad days. So, Father, I just thank you that we have this moment, because that's all that you ever guarantee us, is just this moment. Yesterday is already done. Tomorrow we have no idea what's going to happen. All we have is the present. I love it, Father, where I read somewhere where someone called this, it's a gift. That's why we call it the present. So thank you, Father, that we have this gift of Bible study on Tuesday morning, because I really do think of it as a gift. It's a gift, Father, that you give us because you talk to us through your word. It's a gift, Father, that all these wonderful people here in this room and those watching online give me, because they'll listen to me just run my mouth and so, Father, I just thank you for the gift of our church family. I just thank you, Father, for celebration. I was talking to Pastor Gordy yesterday, Lord, and we lift him up in our prayers today. But he's going to be back Saturday. He needs this church family. He desperately needs this. And I know Pastor Gordy's watching this morning, and I just can't wait. I just can't wait to give that man a big hug and just have him back among us. So, Father, I thank you that we have that we're not some religion or some organization or some denomination. As Pastor Lynn has said a long time ago, we're just nothing but a messy basket of puppies. And I just love that as a definition of Celebration Church. Father, we have a lot of prayer requests. We got people, Father, that's getting ready to go through the holidays, starting their 13-week cancer treatments. Father, we got those that are having to make a hospice decision. We got people, Father, that left hospice, and that's just a great praise, because that just doesn't happen very often. So, Father, I thank you for that. But, Father, you see our prayer requests. You see what's in our hearts. And, Father, just thank you for the way you answer our prayers, the way that you know is best for us. So thank you, Father, for this time of Bible study. Thank you, Father, for this few moments that we spend here in prayer, because that helps kind of flush the cortisol out of our system, gives us a little dopamine, a little oxycodone into our system this morning. And, Father, we just really need that. So, Father, thank you for Haggai. Thank you for a 2-chapter book in the Bible that just, I cannot believe how much it speaks to me. Let it speak to all of us today. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. I saw a headline. I thought I would never see this headline. It says, some of you may have saw it. It says McDonald's introduces a line of activewear. I know. McDonald's is now putting out a line of gym clothes. Can you believe that? No, go look it up. Go look it up. You can now, folks, we live in such an exciting time. You know that we do. They didn't have this 10 years, 20 years ago. We only have it now. You can actually buy workout clothing from McDonald's. And I looked it up, and it's mainly for women, which I think is kind of interesting. But they got prints, and you can get like hotcakes, hash browns, and egg McMuffins. Oh. Because nothing says I'm a happy, healthy person like stretch yoga pants covered in a print of Big Macs. You know, it's just, and if I could get in them, I would have ordered them and I would have had it here next day delivery. I would have paired them so bad. Now, when y'all think of McDonald's, you think of exercise, right? It's not just me. It's funny. I think of Robert Kennedy now with McDonald's, and I thought that would never happen. I've seen this guy eat a Big Mac. But anyway, so I guess what? Burger King's going to sell health insurance. I don't know what the next thing is going to be, but I love just McDonald's and they got the coolest slogan. You know, McDonald's always has the coolest slogans for everything. And I guess the only thing I can figure out, and I was talking with, Annie, we didn't talk about this, but I was going to talk with her. I think the reason McDonald's is putting out the exercise wear right now because Burger King is introducing 3 new Whopper sandwiches. So they're balancing out each other. But I wish I could, and I can't remember what the McDonald's slogan is for the workout clothes. It's really cool. But I grew up. Y'all grew up hearing fast food slogans. We don't remember nothing else, but we remember fast food slogans. Finger licking good. Have it your way. Remember, just the beats. You got to say it like that with "I am your father." It takes 2 hands to hold a Whopper. America runs on Dunkin'. Come hungry, leave happy. That's always one of my favorite ones. And then, of course, how many of you can say this? 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Folks, that was a marketing genius. Whoever came up with that one.
Where's the beef?
I love Where's the Beef. Yeah. That one was a lazy. Where's the beef? But here's the thing: if you live in the South, you grow up with Southern. You grow up with slogans. Everything in your life is a slogan in the South. Especially if you had my granny. My granny's name was Florida Simpson. Isn't that cool? Yeah. She was named after the Florida Simpson. She had she had a slogan for everything. He's as happy as if he had good sense. That was one. I just love that. One of my favorites. My granny was a good Methodist woman, but she would say, he's so cheap, he wouldn't give a nickel to see Jesus riding a bicycle. And as a little kid, the picture in my mind, I just loved that one. He's so dumb, he'd throw himself on the ground and miss. That was another one that she would do. Oh, I remember this one. What was it? If his brain was the size of a bowling ball, it'd rattle around like a BB in a boxcar. It was something like that. I'm trying to remember what it is. My beggars can't be choosers. I mean, day late and dollar short. I remember she said that one. And she always one that I thought was pretty weird. And now I'm really kind of worried about it. But she always would say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. and now with everything that's happening in the news, I'm going, Granny? Is there just something? You know, I never remember, my granny, I mean, oh my goodness, that woman could talk. And she had 1,000. I cannot remember my grandfather having one slogan. Ever heard him say one slogan in his entire life? Because my granny was always talking. And not just my granny, our entire family was always talking. Any of y'all remember 8mm? You know, remember, this is long before. Remember we always would take the cameras out and make these 8mm movies. They were silent, remember? We'd show them. They're called home movies, folks, if y'all don't remember home movies. And for those of you that's under 40, you have no what I'm talking about. But they used to be 3 minutes long, Bell and Howell, when we'd make them, then you'd always have a movie night at the house. And you put them on to watch them, and they were silent. But it was so funny because we'd put it on, and my daddy would be filming, and he would pan the living room full of my aunts and granny and everybody else. And he would say, look, everybody's mouth in this room is moving. Everybody's mouth. He says, who is listening? There is no one in this entire film that's listening to anybody. And he's right. And then in the corner, my Aunt Anna's playing the piano. Everybody's just talking. So I remember my granddaddy. Yeah, I remember one slogan. And this really has nothing to do with Bible study. Oh, man, I wish I'd taken my medication this morning. But anyway, I doubled up for yesterday. But anyway, so I never forget the one time. Y'all want to hear my granddaddy's only slogan?
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with Bible study, but it changed my life. It did. It really, literally changed my life. Every Thanksgiving, our family would get together to meet, and my wife's shaking her head. Oh, it's too late. Okay, my wife's shaking. Now she's going to hold her. We all know what you look like. You can put your face in your head as long as you don't do it. But anyway, our family every Thanksgiving would meet down at the hunting camp. Our family had a hunting lodge. And there'd be over 100 of us. Our family would come for Thanksgiving. So it was a big deal, for Thanksgiving. And my granddaddy would always be staying at the hunting camp. He stayed there all during hunting season. So on Thanksgiving Day, when we all show up, he'd always be in the back room back there with his little black and white TV with the rabbit ears, trying to find a football game. That's what I like to do. And my great-grandfather, Fred Flanny, would always do the blessing. That was the big deal. He was a patriarch of the family. And he died. So the next Thanksgiving come around, and there was no Fred Flanny to do the blessing. So my granny goes to my granddaddy, who's watching TV, and says, Eugene, I'm named after my granddaddy, by the way. Eugene Sims, very spiritual man. Didn't like to go inside for church. He would have loved Celebration Church. Plus, he raised beagles, so he was just a great guy. Just like I say, I'm named after Eugene Simpson. But she says, Eugene, you got to come do the blessing. And my granddaddy says, no, I'm not going to do the blessing. So my granny grabs him by the ear and pulls him outside to do the blessing. So here's my granddaddy standing here, and here's all of us, and I got a zillion cut. I mean, there's over 100 people here, easy. And so my granny says, bow your heads for the blessing. My granddaddy's standing there, my granddaddy goes. And then he can tell you, I am not making this up. This is 100% there. He says, I have never slept with a live man or a dead woman. Amen.
Oh my goodness.
My granny then grabbed his ear again and pulled him back in there. Folks, it was the greatest Thanksgiving of my life. I have never laughed so hard in my life. I was probably, 10 years old when this happened. The man was already a hero to me. But to stand up there and say, I've never slept with a live man or a dead woman. And it's really funny because, my granny was, she was so mad. And everybody was mad if you were dying laughing. But I asked my granddaddy years later, I said, Granddaddy, why did you say that during the blessing? Now, let me tell you how wise this man was. He says, did they ever ask me to do the blessing again? Now, that has nothing to do with Bible study. Y'all learn more about my personal life here on Tuesday morning than I have shared in 28 years with anyone. It's just kind of bad. Okay, but my granny would always have all these slogans, sayings. And she had one that she would use a lot. I mean, a lot. Every time something bad would happen or we thought it was so bad, she would always say, all sunshine and no rain make a desert. Have you ever heard that one? All sunshine and no rain makes a desert. And what she was saying, and my grandmother was right, Florida was right, she was saying life is going to be a mixture of good times and bad times, ups and downs, highs and lows, mountains and valleys. You got to have some rain with the sunshine, or you just going to have a desert. And she would just pull that one out for every time something would happen, And what she was saying was very biblical. In your life, you're going to have discouragement. Y'all know what discouragement is. Is there anybody here that has no idea what I'm talking about? We all know what it is to be discouraged. You're pumped up, you're ready to take on the world, you trip over your own shoes and kind of face plant through the nearest puddle. That's my definition of discouragement. But if you're just joining us, we're actually in the second part of a 3-part series on the Old Testament minor prophet Haggai. And if you missed last week, we talked all the way back to when King Solomon built for God the most magnificent temple. It was mind-blowing how incredible this was. People came from all over the world to see this temple. This is where God lived, and to show Him honor, and just to see the glory of the thing. They say that you couldn't even look at it directly during the morning or evening time, because there was so much gold that covered the temple that the sun would shine off of it, and it would blind you if you looked at it at the wrong time in the morning. And it was that glorious. But then after King Solomon died, people turned away from God. They got distracted, started worshiping idols. So God allowed a series of events to take place to discipline the Jewish people, to bring their focus back towards Him. So last week we talked about the destruction of the temple, 587 BC, under the rule of King Nebuchadnezzar. The Babylonian army destroyed, completely devastated Judah, the southern half of Israel, including the massive insult of destroying God's house, the temple. The Babylonians took the Jewish people into captivity. Anybody remember for how long from last week? 50, very good, 50 years. 5 decades they were in captivity. So you can only imagine the sense of relief and hope for the first time in 50 years when a remnant of people were allowed to go back to rebuild their homeland. So about 50,000 or so people were allowed to go back to rebuild their city. Now, Daniel told them, because Daniel was one of the ones in captivity, he did not go back he stayed in Babylon, which is Iran today. But he said your first priority is you got to rebuild the house of God. And they said, okay. Y'all remember Nehemiah? Whole book in the Bible about all this, if you want to read more about what was going on. Great book. Looking at that, make a great Bible study too. I don't think we ever did a Bible study on the book of Nehemiah. But anyway, so what happened? They said, okay, that's what we're going to do first. So they get in there and they actually put the foundation in place. Actually getting ready to build the place to put the altar, and then some people come along and says, we don't want you to rebuild the temple, because they loved it. There was no walls there. They could go in and just take the people as slaves. Now they had 50,000 people they could capture for slavery. So that's some good money that was right there. And so they had some resistance. So what they did, they just gave up building. 14 years, the temple sat there unfinished with no progress. So God says, I got to remind these people what their first priority was. And so He called up the prophet Haggai. Y'all remember what Haggai means? Carnival, festival. He's a happy guy. I think I'd like to be called Haggai. Carnival guy. Okay, but so Haggai was called up as a prophet of God, and he says, don't just focus on your houses. You focus on God's house. In other words, you need to put God first. You put everything first except for God. And let's pick up the story there. That's where we left off from last week. In Haggai chapter 1. So now in verse 13. Okay, verse 13. Then Haggai, the Lord's messenger, gave the message of the Lord to the people and said, what? What did God say to him? I am with you. That's a great verse in the Bible. You guys go, I am with you. God says, I am with you, declares the Lord. So the Lord stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel, who was the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua, son of Josadesh, the high priest, and the spirit of the whole remnant of the people. So what does God do? God does something. He stirs up the spirit. The spirit of the governor, the spirit of the high priest, and the spirit of all the people. Now, God will often do this in your life. God will often stir up your spirit. Now, what does that mean? If I said, did God stir up your spirit last week? Could you give me an answer? I don't know. Here's what it means biblically. When the Bible talks about having your spirit stirred, it talks about God giving you something called hope. But not the hope like we think of. Like, I hope they get my order right at McDonald's, so I can go work out in my McDonald's Big Mac clothes. No. He means a hope that's confidence. That God, when God stirs up our spirit, He says, you know what? I can do this. You know what? As a church, we can do this. When God stirs up our spirit that way, I think about the times that God has stirred up the spirit of this church. I remember when we built an entire church in the Bahamas. Nail by nail. People bought barrels of nails as Christmas presents. Y'all remember that? And that's what we gave everybody for Christmas. Because God stirred up the spirit of this church. And we said, hey, we can do this. This church, believe it or not, we actually paid. There was a language in Africa that the Bible had never been translated into. We paid the entire cost for translators to be able to take the Bible and translate it into the language of that tribe of people. You did that. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Now, not only did you do that, but then we put up a Christmas tree, and for $300, you could take one of the ornaments off, and you could buy something called a church in a box. And what that was, it was a solar-powered laptop that they could give to these tribes with the Bible translated in their own language, and they could learn the Bible. There was Sunday school lessons on there. There was music. There was church service. There was Bible studies. Everything you need for church was on that laptop. We sold every one of those ornaments on that tree. $300. That's on top of the $3,000, $4,000 I think it cost us for the translation. Now, why would an outdoor church sitting in a park with cheap plastic chairs do something like that? Because God stirred up our spirit. He did. I remember one year, I could just keep going on and on. Heifer International. This church bought water buffaloes. I just think that's just the coolest thing. We bought water buffaloes. And then we would sing the water buffalo song. Y'all remember that at church? We all want a water buffalo. Mine is fast, but yours is slow. It was great. It was just you know, I remember a time after one of the hurricanes. And there was so much loss. And one of the things we found out that people lost was that they no longer had baby buggies, baby strollers. And found out that a lot of migrant people, that was their babysitter. They would put their babies in the baby strollers so they could work in the fields. And all the baby strollers were gone. So God just kind of stirred up our spirit. And I got up one Sunday and I said, how about one Sunday we all bring a baby stroller? Y'all remember that? We called it Holy Stroller Sunday. This church bought so many baby strollers that you literally could not find a baby stroller anywhere in Collier County. We bought every one of them. One of the funniest stories I had with Annie. We were going through, we had money to buy, like, I don't know, 10 strollers. So we're in Target, we clear them out, and we got our 10 where we were. We cleaned them out, and we're going through there, and the woman's just looking at us. And she's going, why are you buying 10 strollers? And I said, well, it's because we're Catholic. and then Andy starts putting, I thought it was funny myself. Okay, so anyway, I love it, and God stirs up our spirit. And here's what scares me. I'm not concerned about this. It scares me that in our church, God may stir up somebody's spirit and say, I need you to go talk to Celebration Church, and I think Celebration Church should do this. And then you go, nah, I don't think we can. And we end up not being able to do something that God would love to do through our church. Stir up our spirit. So when you see this in the Bible, and you'll see this over and over and over, God stirring up the spirit. That's what it is. So God's stirring up the spirit now, saying, you know what, we can build that temple. You know, we've been building our own houses and doing all this other stuff. Remember, they're all paneled. We talked about all that next week. All our houses have marble countertops and everything, but crown molded. But you know, we can build the temple. We're going to do that. We're supposed to build the temple. That's the reason that we were able to leave captivity and come over here, was for this one job. And so, all of a sudden, their spirit gets stirred up. Now, that happens as followers of Jesus. Because there will be those times, like out of the blue, and you're going to think, you know what? We should be doing something for this. You know, we should. You have faith in it, and you want to attack it. And that's because God has stirred up your spirit. So if God ever stirs up your spirit and it's something that we can do as a church, please come and talk to me about it. Because let me tell you, that's God speaks, and God just doesn't speak to me. Thank goodness. You know, God speaks to all of you too. So the story goes this way. That they came and began to work on the house of the Lord Almighty. We can do this. We're going to build God an amazing temple. We can do this. I'm kind of skipping forward because it's going to take us 5 weeks to get through 2 chapters if I don't. But if you keep reading, it says a month goes by. 1 month goes by. Guess what? Guess what they do after 1 month?
Nothing.
You can read it for yourself. They quit again. They did it for 1 whole month. And then we can do this. We're stirred up by the Spirit of God. And then a month later, they fizzle out. What happened, you can read this at the end of chapter 1. They had a big religious festival. And all the people gathered at the temple construction site. And then they looked at it and they said, this is all we've done? All this work? And this is it? This is pathetic. We're not making any progress. And then it says all of a sudden, everyone, the whole group of people, everybody was discouraged, and they just quit. 1 month in, folks. Let me tell you something. There is nothing that can take down a group better than one person like that. Yeah. We used to talk about toxic people, and we haven't done that in a while. Maybe we should with the holidays coming up. But we used to talk about the wet blanket. How there's always somebody that's and something that I think it was Deb who told me this. Deb Cole. She said if you put a bunch of dry blankets and hang them in a closet, and then you hang one wet blanket in the closet, if you go back the next day, you know what you got? Every blanket is wet. And I've always never forgot that, because that just seems kind of cool to me. But that's the way it is. One person, one wet blanket. And I'm sure that's what happened here. It's off the work. Because we can't do this. You're right. You know, and then that was it. It's easy to get discouraged. I mean, I don't have to tell you that. I mean, how often does this happen in our own lives? I'd be surprised if a lot of things I do last a month, to be honest with you. In the garage right now, I got golf clubs, bowling balls. I mean, you name it. I guess they're all sitting in there, you know. And you know, I'm going to attack. I'm exercise.
And your Lego on the dresser.
My Lego. That's right. My Lego is sitting there on the dresser. The little frog mocking me every time I go by. And we flame out before we even get started. So here, a few years back, I'll give you an example. And I'm not totally proud of this, but I decided that I needed to take up something for exercise. And it didn't go too well. I said, you know what? I want to do something. I don't have the money to do something stupid. Because in Naples, if you got the money to do something stupid, you can go buy like a really big boat or something like that. I didn't have stupid money. Okay, I had Walmart money. Okay, so I decided that my hobby was I was going to go cycling. Okay, I don't know why. I see all these groups of people cycling around town, and they all look cool. You know, they're zooming down the road, and I said, you know what? I could do that. I could sit down and push a few pedals. Before my first ride, I actually talked to a guy that does this all the time. In fact, one of the kids that grew up in this church, Peter March, he owns the bicycle shop down, and he grew up here in Celebration Church. So if you need a bicycle, I would say go see him, but none of his bikes have prices on them. So if you have to ask, you can't afford it kind of thing. But he will build you a bicycle from scratch in the back. I did not get my bicycle from Peter Marsh. No, I think I did really get it from Walmart. But anyway, I asked some guy one time, I said, so how long do you ride? Distance-wise. He says, well, I did a 50-mile lap. Oh, I was talking to oh my goodness, the guy that does the Haitian ministry. Jim Willie. I was talking to Jim, and now Jim Willie's in his 80s. Yeah. Okay? So I'm talking to Jim Willie in his 80s. I say, Jim, how far do you ride? He goes, well, I did a 50-miler last week. Wow. We just done 120 miles. He's going, but you know what? I'm just doing 50, 60 miles because I don't want to push it. And I'm going, you know what? That's good advice. I don't want to push it either. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start on the low end. I'm going to start with a 50-miler. Okay, I am. I'm not going to push it. I'll start with I'm doing 50 miles. Now, my wife rides her bike every day. Every morning she gets up and she takes off every day. And I just wave at her. I'm very proud of her. And then, so I go, you know what? that's where I'll start. I'll just start riding with Annie until I get to the point where I just leave her in the dust. Okay? Thank you for not laughing. Anyway, so I got a bike. I get on the thing. First of all, why are bicycle seats so uncomfortable? Do they design that on purpose? I literally feel like they go out of their way to make them hurt. And I asked somebody about it and said, well, Gene, most bike seats are designed to be worn with padded shorts. Now, that should have been a red flag to me right there, okay? But it wasn't. I said, so they said, what kind of bicycle you want? I said, I want one that's got a bicycle seat that would be like riding on a couch. And they said, well, we don't have one of those. But anyway, so I hadn't bought the tight spandex yet, or that alien-shaped bicycle helmet. It's only a matter of time. Can y'all picture me like that? Don't, because you'll never sleep again. Do not picture me in spandex. Oh my goodness, that would be dangerous. But anyway, so I get up with her. I got my bicycle, and it's just a matter of time. So I take off with Annie. I told my wife that I was making a bicycle out of spaghetti. And she didn't believe me, and I said, I'm making a bicycle out of spaghetti until I rode pasta. Get it? I rode pasta. What's the Noodles' favorite bicycle race? The Tour de Lini. Okay. All right. Okay. Anyway, she didn't laugh either. So, but that's pretty much par for the course. But I'm gonna make a bicycle out of spaghetti so I can ride pasta. Okay, Pasta Gene, ride pasta. Okay. So anyway, we got about, I guess, maybe 5 miles. Or not. Okay, it was somewhere at the beginning of my cycling career. And I started thinking, Gene, this is not a really good idea. I'm already hurting. I'm confessing sins and rededicating my life to Jesus just in case. And we have a big circle around our neighborhood. So we're about halfway around the circle. And I'm telling Annie, I got to stop and rest. And she says, what, 3 minutes? I said, well, more like 3 days. And, whatever it takes. And I did. So I go to pull over and to stop, and guess what I did? I just fell right over on my side. Just fell right over on my side. My stomach had already been cramping, and my right leg cramped up. The whole thing just locked up, and I just fell over on my side. And suddenly that little bit of food that I had, it kind of came up, and that goes up in the air, so that kind of lands partially on me. So everybody in my neighborhood's riding past me, and I'm laying there on my side, a little bit of vomit on my face, that kind of stuff. Annie, by the way, did Annie stay with me when I was going through all this? No. Annie is long gone by now. In fact, I had to text her. Oh, no. Pick me up. I need you to come drive me home. Now, we're still in the neighborhood. So please come drive me home.
It's a 2-mile loop.
It's 2 miles? Okay, we didn't have to share that piece of information. Okay, all right. 2 miles. So basically, when you picked me up, that was the drive home of shame. Okay, all right, okay, the drive of shame. I got my bike. I said, if anybody wants one, but no, that bike's long gone. I got rid of that bike. I'm retired from cycling, okay? Just like that. But, we're all like that to some degree. We can attack. We can build this temple. We can build this temple. 1 month later, to the day, if you read Haggai, because they dated everything, 1 month later to the day, they flame out. Now, I don't know what it is for you. We're going to get out of debt. We're going to get out of debt. Oh, but Christmas is coming up. Oh, I forgot about that. It's December again. Can't go on a diet during the holidays. I'm going to go on a diet. I walk into Publix, and they got those double stuffed Oreo cookies. Buy one, get one free. And folks, we got to save money. I mean, that's just pretty much American. You can't pass up a BOGO when you can help the economy and save money. So I'll do that later. We're going to the gym, that's about every January I'm going. We actually have a guy in our church that owns a gym. He says, I'll give you a free membership, Gene, if you'll just go to the gym. And I go, then I point to Jim Lyle. And I say, see, if I look like that, I would go, because then the gym would be named after me, because his name is Jim. Okay, but anyway, by February, there's this. So I don't know what yours is. But when we started out, we're excited. We're in the Spirit. We're going to do this, and then we don't make the progress immediately that we think we should make, and we become incredibly discouraged. And that's exactly what happened to the people of God. We're going to do this for God. 1 month in, they got discouraged. So God and Haggai had a conversation. And God had Haggai ask them this question. And to me, it shows you how loving God is. It's almost like God is trying to get to the root of their discouragement. So if you're discouraged today, perhaps you're discouraged because of one of these two reasons that God's going to talk to Haggai about. Haggai chapter 2, we're now in the last chapter, verse 3. Haggai asked all the people on behalf of God, he says, who of you is left? Who of you is left that saw the house in its former glory? In other words, who is old enough to remember Solomon's temple? Wasn't it amazing? And you go, yeah, that's what you're doing. You're thinking about how amazing Solomon's temple was, and then you're looking at what you have now. Does it seem to you like nothing? Who of you remember the former temple in its amazing glory? Does this one look like nothing to you? And what God was saying to the people, listen, this temple you're building is just as important to me as Solomon's temple. And just because it looks like nothing to you, that's nothing to me. But what you're doing is you're comparing what you're building now to what they used to have. Now that's one of two causes of discouragement. Comparison. To take a note, that's one of two that we're going to find in Haggai. Comparison. The second discouragement is a lack of progress. Those are the two things that will stop you from doing anything substantial with your life. And trust me, I know. Comparison and lack of progress. These people are doing the same thing that I do. This thing was written 4,000 years ago. They're doing the same thing that I do. They compare their start with someone else's finish. And boy, do I see this all the time. I see this all the time with young families. They want the same house that mom and dad have right now. Okay? Now, mom and dad's first house was not the one they're living in now here in Naples. It was a one-bedroom apartment, then and everybody shared a bathroom down the hall, kind of thing. But they want now what it took for their parents to get. They want, they want somebody else's. They were comparing their start with someone else's finish. And when the social media is so bad for this. So, oh my goodness, on social media, this is so bad for this. Somebody puts up on Instagram the lobster dinner picture they're eating down on 5th tonight, on Friday night. And you're sitting there, in your kitchen with the peanut butter, and you say, I can tear this piece of mold away from the bread. We can do this. Not because you can't afford a loaf of bread, you're just too lazy to get to Publix and buy any more bread. So you just kind of do that. And we do that all the time. Our temple doesn't look very good. And their temple looks so much better. Now they say that Haggai was probably about 70 years old when he had this. Probably in his mid-70s, probably about 70. So here's the thing about it is, does Haggai remember the first temple? Yeah, he does. That was 50 years before they were in captivity, so he'd have been a teenager. He definitely would have remembered the former temple, how amazing Solomon's temple was. And this one isn't amazing at all. And I don't know about you, but I get incredibly discouraged a lot of time when I compare where other people are that I'm not. And maybe you're, guys do this. He's got a great job. He's got an amazing car. He's got a fantastic house. I tell you, one of the worst things that's on TV is HGTV. My wife let me tell you something, that's all she watches. I'm going to tell you right now. Hometown, is that what it is? Or Love It or List It? Oh, and look at all the heads nodding around here, okay? That's the worst thing in the world, because you know what you're doing? You're watching them go and remodel these homes, and you know what you're thinking? We should do that. Yes. We should do that. And my wife comes to me and says, Gene, I think we should do this, and this. And I say, woman, you have lost your mind. There is no way we can do this. First of all, because I can't do any of this stuff. You're going to have to hire contractors. You ever tried to hire a contractor here in the city of Naples? No, we're not doing any of this stuff. And then she watches another episode of Love It. Are you going to love it? Are you going to list it? Oh, we're going to love it. And that's what happens. We're surrounded by this idea of comparing ourselves. You know, they got this, you know, my car barely runs. I'm renting in a bad neighborhood. They're retired, you know, playing pickleball every day. I'm the same age they are, but I got to get to my next shift as a Walmart greeter. And that happens here in this town, big time. You might be a lady. Ladies compare, like I said, her kids go to school in matching outfits. They go with baked goodies every single day. And they have college credit in the 5th grade. And my kids are barely dressed, and I think they had on pants today. I'm not real sure. They forgot their lunch money. They're flunking PE. These are our kids. You know, you just feel so bad. It's easy to feel like a massive loser in today's society. It really is. Just go on Instagram. And then there's a party, and they got pictures of the party. They go, I wasn't invited to the party. No one invited me. They're having their 3rd cruise again this year. I can't even afford to go to Publix. You know, Annie and I, we're reading this article in the New York Times. It outlined the hidden pain of parents who will never become grandparents due to the choices of their children. Anybody read that article? No, because you have grandkids. Okay, you didn't have to read that article. You may have saw the title of it and went, No, Annie and I, we have no grandkids. You've met our kids. We'll never have grandkids. Okay, but I get to watch everybody else taking their grandkids to Disney World and to the beach, and you know, I'm comparing. I'm comparing all these different things, and suddenly you feel incredibly discouraged, because here's the question you're always going to ask yourself when you get discouraged: what's wrong with me? When you're laying there on the side of the road with a bicycle on top of you, and your legs won't move. And that's the first thing you're laying there going, what's wrong with me? And y'all know what I'm talking about. Everybody in this room, everybody watching online, what's wrong with me? I'll tell you what's wrong with you. You've compared. And just like they did, our little pathetic attempt to build this new temple, it pales in comparison to the glory of Solomon's temple. So guess what we are? We're failures. We're failures. We feel so discouraged. This happens a lot. We don't have a building. And we're getting ready to celebrate our 28th anniversary, Pastor Lana. 28 years we've done outdoor church. But yeah, I'll go off, and Annie and I'll go off to some church conference. And you know, the only thing that pastors sit around and what they love to talk about is their buildings. They love to talk about buildings. You know what pastors love to do? They love to do building programs. They love building programs. Gary, do you know what I'm talking about here? If your church in building 3, you've done 3 building programs. So they go, well, Gene, tell us about your church. And I go, well, I'm not involved in a building program. Fought with city council, but not involved with a building program. And I will try to explain that we have an outdoor church, and they look at me like we're some kind of cult. Yeah. They just write me off. And I go,
advising you to build a building.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing they do. Right. And then the next thing, all of a sudden I'm getting emails from all of these mortgage companies that finance church buildings from around the world. You qualify for $450 million. We're not building a building. We're not doing it. We're just not going to do it. But what happens? We'll go to these things, and I dread sitting there because I know what's coming up with these pastors. And you end up just feeling like, well, I just feel like a failure. I love our church. We have probably 5 times as many people in church than they'll have at church, but we don't have a building. We don't have Solomon's temple. Good. Our little plastic chairs is just kind of pathetic, Pastor Lana. Just
no, it's not.
No, it's not.
No.
There you go. See, now see, that's being filled with the Spirit of God right there, and that's a big difference between me and Pastor Lana. It's right there. Okay. Oh my goodness. So there's also a lack of progress. That will discourage anybody, and this is what they did. We're a month into this, and we're not getting anywhere. What was that mini-series we just watched again? Pillars of the Earth, where they're building this huge cathedral. I've never seen it. It's great. Ken Follier wrote the book, and I love the book. But they got a mini series out about the building of the Chartres Cathedral, which is one of the most greatest things ever built on the face of this earth. And it just talks about how many hundreds of years, how many generations it took to build the thing. And now we couldn't rebuild that if our life depended on it. With all of our technology, we couldn't do it. But this is what happens. Lack of progress. You ever go on a diet? Let me tell you something. I bore you all to death because I'm going back Friday to get more blood work. I'm trying to figure out. Because here's what happens. Every time they put me on something to lose weight, I go back in there and I've gained 2 pounds. And they can't figure it out. They go, well, we're going to start giving you these Mounjaro injections. And you'll probably lose 8 to 10 pounds the first week. I get the injections. I go back in there. I have gained 2 pounds. And they go, that's not possible. I go, well, you never met Florida Simpson. You don't know my family. You never met my granny. That is possible. It's possible. And isn't that discouraging? You think you ate so well yesterday. You had the salad and everything, and you get on the scales this morning, and you go, I didn't eat a pound. I didn't eat a pound. And what I ate was lettuce, was rabbit food. How in the world did I gain a pound? Is the air heavier around here or something? You know, just what happened? I'm trying so hard. I'm working out, and it's not working. You try to start a business, whatever. You take 2 steps forward, and it seems like 3 steps backwards. Same thing. This happens to a lot of people in their spiritual progress. They think, you know, I've been a Christian now for all this time, but yet I don't really see any different. I don't see any growth in my life. You know, I was just talking to somebody, and they said, you know, I've been a Christian for so long, and I still use bad words. I still cuss. I mean, Gene, we're going to church today, and our whole family, we cussed all the way there. And you know what? I never say this out loud, Lynn, but in my mind, I'm always thinking, too much information. You're giving me way too much information. And I do. I know way too much about everybody in this church. Because now I'll just picture that beautiful family come to church every morning, and they're all just cussing up the storm the whole time they're coming here. You know? But they're discouraged. By the time they get to church, they're discouraged because they're all cussing. You know, they got this. I don't have that. My brother Ty, 4 years younger than me. He got all of Daddy's genes. He's got hair. He's thin. He's got a butt. Okay, I got all my mother's genes. I'm fat. I have no hair. I got a back with a crack. Now, here's the thing. I go to the doctor, and I spend 3 weeks in intensive care with a heart attack and have all this heart surgery. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, I really can't find anything wrong with you. And I go, wait a minute, Ty. You ate the exact same food that I've eaten growing up. We sat at the same table. We ate the same fried chicken. We ate the same fried fish. We ate the same fried biscuits. We ate the same fried everything. And you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, I guess I could put you on a cholesterol medication, but, you know, we really don't need to. And every morning, twice a day, Annie hands me a handful of pills that I have no idea what they are. 2 of them are probably rat poison, and nobody would blame her, but I just take them because I have no idea what they are. You know, and so I look at that and I go, that's just not fair. I mean, it's just, I understand I don't want my brother to have a heart attack. I mean, I'm really glad for him, but I'm still going, that's just not fair. I know people that's like this. I've given it all in my marriage. I'm trying to put up with this, whatever, and they don't care. They don't care. And they say, Gene, so why should I try anymore if I'm the only one that's going to try in this marriage? So discouraged. I give it my best, I'm not getting anything back. I see this with people's kids all the time. You know, Gene, I don't understand it. We both read. We love, you know, science and art and everything. And we love going to church. And our kids, they don't go to church. They get in trouble with drugs, and they're like 47th in their class of 47. They won't even pick up a book or anything. And then, by the way, I have a long talk with parents, and Gary does this same thing, I know. is where you have to understand every kid has their own personality. You are responsible for your kids up to a certain point, but every child has their own personality. And that's a hard thing for us to grasp as parents. That's why you may have one that turns out great, one that turns out not like they do. And there's always one. Because kids are like that. It has nothing to do with you. But you know what we think of as parents? Could I be any stupider? You know? It's so discouraging. You try everything. And you just and what happens, you know, well anyway, you just feel discouraged. You just really feel discouraged. You wake up one day and you go, maybe it's just not worth it. Maybe it's just not worth it. There's a guy in our church, and because I never go to the dermatologist, because I have found out if you don't go to the doctor, you don't end up getting sick. It works out pretty. I mean, really, I'm just telling you, it's just a secret to that. Unless you go to the doctor's office and they say you're having a heart attack right now. But anyway, this guy, he's got a skin cancer that's growing on his head. It's a melanoma thing. But it's eating away the skin on his scalp, and he has to do, every time he's got to go in there and do all these skin grafts where they take skin off of him and everything. He's done this now for like 3 or 4 times. And he just says, Gene, I don't want to do it anymore. And you know what? I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to do it anymore either. I mean, it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to get discouraged. I tell you, Andy can tell you this right now. And I just want to be totally honest with you on this thing, because I'm kind of setting you up for next week. This is kind of the middle part's always the bad sequel. The middle part's always where it's bad and then it gets better at the end. But I'm going to tell you something, and Annie, tell me if you agree with this. I live with a constant low-grade discouragement. Would you agree with that? No, she's going, no, Gene. It's more like middle grade. Sometimes high grade. But it never goes away. I'm always discouraged. And I'll tell you why I'm always discouraged, because I always feel like I'm not good enough. And that's just me. After every sermon, my mind will not shut off all day long. I should have said that. I should have said that. I should have said that. Huh?
No one said it was a good sermon.
That's right. Nobody. I said, you know what? We should do a sermon on prayer. You know, last Sunday, I said, let's talk about that. Wire these people up, and talked about what prayer does to your body, how it changes your thought patterns and your dopamine and everything. And not one person come up to me and say, "Oh, that'd make a great sermon. I wish you would do that." No, it don't. So you know, so I just feel that. I just, you know. Because, folks, I feel like I am a shepherd. I know they say Jesus is the good shepherd and we're the sheep, but under the metaphor, under Jesus, a good shepherd, I am the shepherd of this flock. Mm-hmm. It's my job to help the sheep follow Jesus faithfully. And sometimes it just doesn't feel like it's working.
It's working. It's working.
Well, you know what?
Great job.
Then how come we don't have a line full of people to come in for Bible study? That's the hardest thing for me. We talk about it every Sunday, talk the Bible, and we try to make the Bible exciting. So we're saying, listen, and James will get up there and say, listen, you think sermons are good? Come to the Bible studies. And it just you know, sometimes I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just wanting you to know how easy it is. You work hard on this stuff. I work really hard on that bicycle story. you know. And so, Gene, why are you telling us this? You need letters and all? No. I just want to level the playing field here. I want us all to be depressed together. No, because I want you to come back next week. Because we need to hear from God on this? We do. Now, like I said, I'm not whining or anything. I'm just saying we all live in the same house. We all do. We're all going through stuff. I just don't want you to think that I'm the one eating the lobster on Fifth when you look at your own life. No, we're going through a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff.
But it's not all up to you.
But I know. But I tell myself,
God gave you a tremendous gift, and that's not going away. And He wants you to use it. And you've been using it for 28 years, and it's just I've never seen anything like it.
Look how many come every Sunday.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
But you say that. You know what I'm hearing in my head? If it's to be, It's up to me.
It's not. That's
I know. I'm not saying I'm right, Lana. I'm just saying that's just the way it is. These people that's building Solomon's temple, I mean, these people building the temple, did they think they were as good as the people that built Solomon's temple? Oh, I bet they get, oh man, look at the artisans and all that built Solomon's temple. And here, look at us, what we're trying to do. And remember, did God give them really technical instructions? Y'all remember the instructions from last week? Go up the mountain, bring down the timber, build the house. I mean, it's not rocket science here. 1, 2, 3. Here's what you do. Here's what you do. Go up the mountain, bring down the timber, and build this and build the temple. Okay, it's time to go. It's 12 o'clock. This week, we're going to get discouraged. What do we do? Well, first of all, understand God says, I'm with you. Remember, these people are discouraged. What's the first thing God says to them? Remember, guys, I'm with you. I'm with you. And he says, and if you read this, he's actually going to say the same thing. He's going to go to each one of these guys that was mentioned. God's going to say, be strong now, Zerubbabel. Joshua, be strong. And then he tells all the people, be strong. Okay? So he goes, and that's his message. And we're going to talk about that last week. So God says, be strong. And then he's going to say, now go do the work. Now go do the work. If you're discouraged, God says, okay, you're discouraged. That doesn't give you an excuse not to do the work. In fact, we're going to read next week, God says, if you're discouraged, a lot of it's because you want to be discouraged. And you might be using it as an excuse not to do the work. That's what next week's going to be about, how we do not have to be strong on our power. We're strong because of God's power. Because of God's power. Now, you know what? I told you, we said it was like, go up the mountain, bring down the timber, build the house. You know what God's going to talk about next week, which will be our last Bible study on this? He's going to talk about put down another stone. Put down another stone. Because you know what the answer to discouragement is? I'll give you a little preview for next week. It's obedience. It's obedience. Because you get 70 coming up. And you know what all my friends are saying? How come you're not retiring? How come you're not retiring? They're all retiring. Most of them retired at age 62. Because if you're a Methodist pastor, you can't wait to get out of there. You know what I'm talking about, right? You're listening. You know what I'm talking about. You know, I go see my friends and we just go there. Well, you know, if you're retired, you can do this with us and this with us. And my best friend's wife is going, please retire, Gene. Please retire so he'll stay off my back. You know, it's just this kind of stuff. I don't want to.
Good.
One day, when the church comes to me and says it's time to go, we got Pastor James, we got you and I believe what we have that's just waiting in store. But I don't want to quit because I'm discouraged. That's the important thing. And Annie knows that's something we're kind of dealing with right now. And I'm not going to get into a lot of that, but let me tell you something. It's easy to go home. It's easy not to pick up another stone. But God's going to tell us next week, be strong and show back up. And show back up. And I hope you'll come back next week. You see, I put something on the top of your outline. Successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. And that's it. So, folks, this week I want you to pray, God, I will be strong. I will show up. I'll do the work every single week. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll continue to pray. I'm going to continue to seek God on my behalf and your behalf. We're going to study His Word. We're going to live our lives with Him, preach Jesus Christ crucified, risen, transformed lives, and we're going to pick up stone after stone after stone after stone after stone. The last verse I want to read to you, and it's 12:05. We're out of here. Here's what God says to them after all they're all discouraged and everything. But I want to leave you on a little bit of a positive note. Here's what God says in this next verse. The glory of this temple, the glory of the present temple, is going to be way greater than the glory of the former temple. Isn't that a cool thing for God to say to these people?
Mm-hmm.
Now, why did He say that? Because Solomon's temple, that was... Come back next week, and we'll see why He says that. So I'll leave it right there. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what? These actually turn out more. You know, this is cheaper than therapy for me. You know, this is actually.
But this Galatians 6:9 is, do not